Hare Krishna. Welcome to Weekend Wisdom series on Bhagavad Gita. We are starting our discussion on chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. We know that the knowledge that's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita is highly confidential. The more we dive into it, the more we get to know the inner meanings of this shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. And specifically, when we talk about chapter 9, then the knowledge becomes most confidential. Why is it so? So, let's start our discussion on chapter 9 and understand. Srila Prabhupada says that there are so many different departments of knowledge that exist within this world, be it department of physics, department of chemistry, department of biology, and there are so many other research institutes and universities. But unfortunately, there is no institute or university that basically talks about the science of soul. And Bhagavad Gita is a book that talks about the science of soul. And when we go into the deep of it, like this chapter 9, that talks about the more confidential aspects of the science of spirituality. So let's recite shloka 1 and 2 together. Shri Bhagavana Uvacha Idam tu te guhyatmamam pravakshamayana suyave jnanam vijnanam sahitam yagyatva mokshase shubhat. Meaning, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So in Shloka 1, 3 key aspects have been discussed by Lord Krishna. The first qualification to learn or to understand the most confidential knowledge is that one should not be envious of Lord Krishna. When we say envious means, if we do not accept the teachings of God, that means in a way we are envious of Krishna. Whenever we try to dominate the knowledge being given by God, or we try to live not in line with what God expects from us, that means we are envious of God. And there could be different other meanings of our envious nature that we have towards God. So first is, if you really want to have that access of the most confidential knowledge, then you have to get rid of your envious nature towards Lord Krishna. Second is the knowledge that Lord Krishna is giving. It is jnanam vijnanam sahitam. That means it covers both the theoretical aspect and it also talks about the realization aspect. So knowledge and realization, or theory and practice. So for example, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a reference of 9 different processes of devotional service. It begins with hearing, chanting, then we have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarnam. Smarnam, that means we have to think of Krishna. Then Archanam, deity worship. All different 9 processes have been mentioned there in Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the theory part. Then there is a practical. We have to execute those 9 different processes. And when we constantly execute those 9 different processes one by one, then eventually we reach to the platform of realizing that knowledge. So that's why Krishna is telling, I'm not just talking about theory, there is a practical also. And the proper implementation of the theoretical knowledge in our day-to-day life in the form of practical will lead to realization. So this is the second point that Lord Krishna has touched upon in Shloka 1. And the third thing Lord Krishna says that if you properly understand it, the theory part, apply that theory part in your life, then what will happen? You will become free from the miseries of this world. So there are so many problems within this world. Again, Krishna is giving an assurance that you will become free from it. So we see often Lord Krishna is giving this assurance that the formula to get free from the miseries of this world is to stay focused onto this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, to apply this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita in our day-to-day life. That will help us to get rid of the miseries of this material world. So these are the three aspects that have been covered by Lord Krishna in Shloka 1. Now in Shloka 2, again Lord Krishna says, Raj Vidya Raj Guhyam Pavitram Mudam Muttamam. So that means, first of all, this knowledge is a king of all the education that exists within this world. Why? Because this is the essence of all the knowledge. Like we know, within our Vedic literatures, there are so many different branches of knowledge. At times, people get confused with what they should follow, what they should not follow. But this is the king of all the education available within our Vedic literatures, because it is presenting the essence of the Vedic knowledge. That is why it is known as king of education, or we call it as the most confidential knowledge. In other words, the exclusive and unalloyed devotional service to Lord Krishna have been glorified in this chapter. Then one important word that comes here is susukham, that whenever we are performing devotional service, it should be performed joyfully. Often we see that when we are performing devotional service, we don't experience any joy. We just perform it as a part of our regular exercise, or we are just performing it as a matter of our duty. So what we should do? What is the problem? We can understand it with a simple example, as Srila Prabhupada says, that if someone is suffering from jaundice and if he is given the juice of the sugar cane, initially the juice would be bitter, but eventually when the jaundice will get over, then he will start feeling the taste of that sugar cane juice as the natural sweet taste. So initially there was a problem. Initially the person was suffering. Likewise, we are suffering in this material world. And when we are performing devotional service, we are not experiencing joy. But once we will get free from the contamination by practicing this 9 different paths of devotional service, then we will be able to experience that joy. So this is the whole process of devotional service. Ultimately, we have to become free from the contamination. We all have a dust within our heart, and we all have to clean that dust by the regular practice of the devotional service. In Shloka 3, 2 key words have been discussed. First is Ashraddhana and second is Mrityu Samsara Vartamani. That means Ashraddhana means faithless. If we do not have faith on the path of spiritual life, then we cannot progress. Faith is the beginning of the spiritual journey. And the whole process of Krishna consciousness is to eventually make our faith more and more stronger. That is why we associate with devotees whose faith is strong enough. And faith will help us to progress on the path of spiritual life. So there are different degrees of faith that we see within the lives of people. Some people's faith is very shaky. As soon as they see that some problem comes in their life, then they stop practicing devotional service. There are some people whose faith is very strong. No matter whatever situation that they come across in their life, they still keep on performing devotional service faithfully. So ultimately we have to come to the platform of conviction. When the faith is strong enough, no one can shake that faith. We all need to have faith that with the help of practice of devotional service in our life, we will be able to reach to Krishna. We will be able to cultivate our relationship with Krishna. So, how can we make our faith more and more condensed day by day? Srila Prabhupada says again in the purport to Shloka 3 that we all need to have strong association. The association factor will help us to make our faith more and more stronger. And then the meaning of the shloka is that ashraddhana and mrityu samsara vartamani. So if we do not have faith, then what will be the outcome? Krishna says that we'll keep on rolling within the cycle of birth and death. Mrityu samsara vartamani. So faith has a very critical role to play on the path of Krishna consciousness. So let's move on to Shloka 4. In Shloka 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, same theme have been discussed by Lord Krishna. So in Shloka 4, Lord Krishna says, Maya tat midam sarvam jagat avyakt murtina. That means, by me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So here Lord Krishna is telling that I am spread everywhere, in every atom of this world, in every object of this world, because my nature is I am all pervasive. I am omnipresence. But he says that although I am present everywhere, it does not mean that I lose my personal identity. My personal identity is altogether different. I exist everywhere, still my personal identity is different, and I never lose my personal identity because of the very fact that I exist everywhere. Now this is little complicated in itself. It can be understood with the help of an example. Like there is a king, and that king may have different departments running under him. So we can say those different departments as the different energies of the king. All those different departments are ultimately working under the king's direction, because they are the manifestation of king's energy only. But king is not personally present everywhere. King is not personally overseeing all the activities that's taking place within those departments. So likewise, Lord Krishna, through his energies, he is present everywhere, but he does not personally take part in all those activities. So you all may please refer Shloka 9 now, and we all can recite together. Nacha mam tani karmani nibadhananti dhananjaya udasinavad asinam asaktam teshu karmashu. O Dhananjaya, that means Arjuna, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as through neutral. So in Shloka 9, Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna that first, no material world can bind me. I am always detached. Everything is indirectly working under my direction. Everything is working through my energies only. But I am neutral to everything. I am detached from it. I do not get contaminated from all these different kinds of activities. So we can understand it with the help of an example of a high court judge. The high court judge is sitting on the bench. His role is to pass the orders, and he passes the order. Whenever he passes the order, someone is being hanged to death, someone is being punished, someone is being imprisoned, someone is being rewarded with some good amount of wealth, someone is being jailed. But what is the role of judge? His role is to simply pass the order. He is neutral. He is not going to get any credit or debit from whatever decision he passes. He is completely aloof from it. He is completely free from it. He has nothing to do with a gain or loss. Ultimately, it is the plaintiff or defendant. They are either the beneficiary or they basically lose something. The judge doesn't lose anything. He is not a beneficiary to any of the orders that he passes. So likewise, Lord Krishna is doing different activities. All these things are working indirectly under the direction of him. But he has nothing to do with it. He is neutral. So this is very important, because at times people think that if Krishna is performing some action, then he is also bound by those actions. If Krishna is killing someone, like in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, many soldiers were killed, and at times people tell that Krishna is suffering because of that killing. He was responsible for that killing. But no, Krishna is telling, I have nothing to do with it. I am completely free from it. Then in Shloka 10, Lord Krishna says, Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate sa characharam. So Krishna says that all these different energies which are working, these different energies are mine. And I personally do not get involved within those energies. I have simply delegated my task. So material nature means all this material world, as we studied in chapter 7 as well. This whole material nature is working through the energies of Krishna. And all those energies are working under the direction of Krishna. Like there is an example in Smriti Shastra, like we have a flower and we get fragrance from that flower. So whenever that fragrance gets touched to our nose, we experience the fragrance. So practically, fragrance is touched with our body, not really the flower. But because of the flower, the fragrance exists. Likewise, everything is happening in this world under the direction of Lord Krishna. Like that flower exists, and because of that flower, fragrance exists. But flower is not getting touched to our body, it is fragrance that gets touched to our body. Similarly, in this material world, all these different energies are, assisting us in performing different actions. Lord Krishna is sitting like a flower, and those different energies are acting like a fragrance. And that fragrance or those energies exist because of Krishna. If Krishna does not exist, then energies has no role to play. So it's a very practical and a relevant example through which we can understand that although Krishna is everywhere, but he is neutral, he is detached. He becomes active only when we talk about devotional service. He becomes active only when it comes to dealing with the devotees. He is interested in devotees, devotional action and devotional service. He is not interested in ordinary material activities of this world. Now in Shloka 11 and 12, Lord Krishna is talking about some class of people who consider Lord Krishna to be an ordinary human being. So there it begins with Avajananti mam mudam manushyam tanumashritam. That means there are some scholars, there are some commentators, or there are some wise people within this world who are being referred as fool here by Lord Krishna. He is telling that those fools cannot understand me. They think that I am an ordinary human being. This is where they commit a mistake. Although Lord Krishna, when he came within this world, he performed some of his actions as ordinary human being, and he performed some of the actions as extraordinary human being as well. Lord Krishna clearly tells here that whether my actions were ordinary or my actions were extraordinary, I am a Supreme Personality of Godhead. If anyone understands me to be an ordinary human being or just a powerful human being? He is fool. So Lord Krishna tells about such people as Muda or fools because they deride Lord Krishna. And then in Shloka 12, again Lord Krishna says that those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So in this Shloka 12, a specific word has been used by Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna says, Vichetasa. Vichetasa means getting bewildered, or in simple words, getting confused. Who are those people? Such people are the people who get attracted with the demoniac or atheistic views. What are the demonic or atheistic views? The demoniac or atheistic views are the views when people think God to be an ordinary human being or just a powerful human being, as we discussed in previous Shloka 11. So we cannot consider Lord Krishna as a ordinary human being. When Lord Krishna appeared in this world, he has shown his four-handed form of Narayana to his parents, and his parents got afraid, and then immediately they requested Lord Krishna to resume his normal form as a childhood boy. Similarly, when Lord Krishna had shown the universal form to Arjuna, then Arjuna immediately requested Lord Krishna to please resume to the original form. So Lord Krishna was actually Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he kept that aspect of being God hidden. And another logical factor is that an ordinary human being or even a superhuman being cannot perform what Lord Krishna performed. His extraordinary acts, his extraordinary pastimes are proof of the very fact that he is himself a Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is no question, there is no doubt about it. And with this note, let's conclude our discussion for today. In summary, we first discussed about the most confidential nature of this knowledge, why this knowledge is so much confidential, what is so special about this knowledge, how this knowledge is different from other branches of knowledge. Then after that, we discussed about the need of faith. If we are faithless, then will simply lead to degradation in our life. Then we discussed about the principle that although Lord exists everywhere, but his personal identity remains. So he exists everywhere through his different energies, and he is always detached, he is always neutral, he is always free. Lord Krishna can only be entertained by pure devotional service. There is no other way. And lastly, we discussed how some people consider Lord Krishna to be an ordinary human being. He is not an ordinary human being. He is himself a Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we see anything around us confidential, that confidential thing can only be revealed with the passage of time. So if we are sincerely practicing the path of Bhakti Yoga, the Bhagavad Gita knowledge will get itself revealed to us with the passage of time. It may not get revealed on day one, but definitely the more we will be sincere, the more it will get revealed. So the sincerity has its crucial role to play on the path of Krishna consciousness. So with this note, we are concluding our discussion for today. We have covered up to Shloka 12 and we'll resume our discussion in the next session from Shloka 13 onwards. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please keep reading Bhagavad Gita. Any confusion, you can always reach out to me. Hare Krishna.